our next panelist, we're going to bring up Rose Jackson. And so Rose Jackson is one of the leaders of the Fridays for Future movement, climate youth movement. And whenever I can, I take the opportunity to mention that Rose and her teammates in the youth climate strike movement were out speaking truth to power at City Hall in minus 29-degree weather. Every Friday they could be out there. They were out there. And the only reason they're not out there now is because they're, like all climate activists, smart enough to socially distance ourselves properly. But anyways, Rose Jackson, thank you for coming on. And what's your question for Sarah?
Just want to make sure, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I kind of have like a two-part question. So just transition, we all know that we got to do it. What are your thoughts on the Green Deal made for Alberta by Albertans that kind of emphasizes the transition for workers in terms of like skills and transitioning towards the green energy sector, climate change, education, and innovation, and would that be possible within the next few years?
Yeah, great question. And I mean, that's really the big challenge, and so critical that that the transition does, isn't leaving people behind and is creating more opportunities. And I would say that's both, thinking about kind of people that are, maybe will be, have say an attractive job today that may or may not be there after a transition, but actually also thinking about people who may be left out of the economy today. How can we use that transition as a way to bring more people in as well too, and to kind of address other underlying issues around equality. And so, this is an area I think that is, people are really aware that we need to work on it, and there is no silver bullet, simple answer. But the best approaches are sort of a combination of things, right? So one is that piece of kind of, for people that are really, say close to retirement, or for whatever reason, there isn't going to be a way for them to kind of find a space in that new economy. It's thinking about how do you support them and provide them with the early retirement funds or things like that are going to allow them to kind of come out of the transition okay. And then there's that middle tranche of sort of, retraining, right? So where can you find ways to help provide people with the skills to be able to, continue to do their work within that new economy piece. And that's where, the extent to which, say, we start to look into mining rare earths, there's a lot of complementary skills for people that are already, say, working in industry today. But certainly making sure that we're funding education and funding the right kind of technical upskilling type education is going to be key. And then for younger people that are still in school and kind of choosing their path, I think there's a big responsibility to show people that there is an opportunity here, and that's hard, right? Because for folks that have been in the industry or working for a long time, they kind of know maybe one way of making the economy in Alberta work. And so, certainly I think we do well to look beyond our borders and see, ways that, beyond our borders and also into our past, and see ways that, we've been able to kind of accept and find new pathways previously. But that's where that education piece is really critical. And then there's some things that are, beyond kind of, I would say, my area of expertise, but I find really interesting about that have been going on within this discussion around the state that we've been in with COVID and the attention that it's brought to the idea of, for a whole half of the population, for women in the population that are doing most of the caregiving work, how this is making us so aware of the fact that a lot of that work isn't being, maybe acknowledged and isn't being acknowledged financially. And so I think there's a lot of broader questions that we're going to come out of this with around how do we build sort of a more just economy more broadly. And I hope that, that carbon piece of the transition is one part of that. But I also hope that it's a chance to kind of look more holistically at some of those challenges we need to address.
And so for like a quick second question, how would you suggest like youth can effectively spark more conversations about the Green New Deal or sustainable development policy within like policymaker and governmental spheres? Just like any suggestions?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think, I mean, there's a lot that has been accomplished already, and so that's certainly something to be proud of that folks like you have done. I think using your, certainly for youth that are able to vote, definitely using your vote and getting all your friends to vote, because, I'm a big believer in that a lot of this stuff comes ultimately through policy change. It may not start there, but that's a critical piece of that. So having governments that are, going to put those types of policies into place are key. I think also, the kind of demand that you have for, for programs within schools, that gets people's attention too. I know that at the universities across Alberta, there's been a real shift away from an interest in some of the more oil and gas type majors. And I think that is making people kind of aware that, okay, there actually really is going to be a shift here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Okay, thank you, Rose, and keep up the great work. I know you will.